Okay, here, let's recording. Here we go. This is Psalm number 90. It says, a prayer for Moses, a man of God. Remember what we learned yesterday? That this is talking about two different levels of Moses. Moses, that's the essence of Moses, that he was drawn from the water. Ish or Elohim is showing how Moses brought godliness into the world. Elohim, this aspect of godliness, which is relevant to the world, he brought into Ish. So the three aspects, the essence of Moses, that's Moshe. And then there is Elohim, how godliness comes into the world. And then there's Ish, says the lower part of Moshe. Okay? That's what it says. Now let's go to the end. It says, may the pleasantness of God be on us, and the work of our hands be permanent for us, and the work of our hands be permanent. So the Rebbe says, in the beginning and in the end, there's repetition. In the beginning, it starts off saying, remember, that's how we finished yesterday. In the beginning, it says the prayer of Moses, man, God. Say, this is the prayer of Moses. What do you have to say as a man, God for? This is because this is talking about two different levels of Moses. In a way, three. Moses, that's the essence of Moshe, that is connected to the essence of God. He was drawn from the water, a totally different person. But because he comes from such a high place, therefore he has a level of godliness, Elohim, that can be drawn into Ish, into the physical world, into people. It says that Moses, this is from the top part of Moses was God, and the lower part of Moses was a man. It says this whole idea of godliness, that's a lower aspect of godliness. So it says so there's double, the essence of Moses, and then how Moses comes into the world. So it's doubled. The same thing in the end, that we didn't talk about this yet. It says, may the pleasantness of God be on us. It says, the work of our hands be permanent for us, and the work of our hands be permanent. Why say it twice? Oh, so that's what we're going to get to now. According to this, now we can understand what it says in the end of the psalm. The handwork will be permanent for us. Our handwork will be permanent. Okay, even since that by Moshe, that Moses, we said, is a mamutza mechaber, that we said that Moses he joins the Jewish people. He is a middleman that joins the Jewish people to God. Right, like they have this super glue, what is epoxy glue, whatever it is, that it takes molecules from both things you want to join together, and it interwaves the molecules. That's what Moshe was. Moshe interwove godliness with the Jewish people, brought it inside. So therefore, Moses says that he joined the Jewish people. So it seems that there's two things. There's Moshe, like we said before, that's the essence of Moshe, and Ish and Elohim, how Moses comes into the world. Therefore, there is by Moshe, the way he's below, this idea of being eternal and set, firm, permanent. The power which is unlimited. That's why every generation there has to be a Moses revealed. Like it says in the Hemshech, it says, you are a fortress for us from every generation. But Terem Hori Yaladu, before the mountains were born, from world to world, you are God. Because 1,000 years in your eyes is like nothing. Let's go back to the psalm. Beautiful psalm. Here. Look, what does the psalm say? Here it says, a song, a prayer to Moses from Moses, man of God. God, you are a fortress for us, a castle for us, a dwelling you are for us. From generation to generation, before the mountains were born, and before the earth and the world was from one world to another world, you are God. But then it says, 1,000 years in your eyes are like yesterday, because everything goes over. Right? In other words, by you, time doesn't have any effect, God. You are eternal, God. So it's the same thing with Moshe. Moshe is an Ish Elohim. Moses is a God man, just like God is eternal. So Moshe is eternal. Oh. because 1,000 years in your eyes are like yesterday. Also, is drawn down this permanent, eternal aspect of godliness is drawn down into time, and also by Moses, a human person, that he's totally surrendered to God. That's the eternality of Moses himself. It says Moses did not die. Huh? It says in the Talmud, where is it in Sota, that Moses did not, 60, where is this? Sota, in the Gemara in Sota. It says that Moses did not die. But what do you mean it doesn't die? It says in the Torah that they embalmed him and everything. It says in every generation there is a representative of Moses. Not Moses, that they didn't embalm him. It says in the Torah that Moses died. What do you mean he didn't die? It says he went up on Har Nevo and he died. He died, and nobody knows where he's buried. It says to this day, it must be he died, right? He says, no, it's not, he didn't die. It says, no, Safan Bechin is Moshe, which is in every Jew. Moses, this is a big novelty. This is a big novelty. What do you say? A scoop, news, which Chabad brought into the world, especially the Rebbe brought into the world, that every Jew has a little Moses inside of him. It's in the Tanya also. Every Jew has a little Moshe inside of him. What's in chapter chapter 40, 41. Let me have a look here. 41. In the beginning of 42, chapter 42. It says every single Jew has a little Moses inside of him. That's what makes it also in our individual abilities also, until the Maisi Adei of Moshe, until it says that everything that Moses made and that he did, the Torah that he wrote and the tabernacle that he made are eternal. Moshiach is going to come and reveal it all. Okay, therefore, Moshe, because he was a God man, he drew down the infinity of God into the world and made the world infinite, made the people, everything that he did became infinite. Therefore, Moses had the power, Moshiach, to draw down the Shekhinah into the world by means of his prayer. Yehi Noam Hashem Elokeinu, may it be the pleasantness of God should be on us. Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will that the Shekhinah should be on our hands. That's what it means in the end. Konanu Aleinu, it should be permanent. Konanu means permanent. Moses had the ability to draw eternal, make the physical world eternal from generation to generation, until this is hinted at the eternalness of the third temple. That the third temple, it says, will be a building that will never be destroyed, not like the tabernacle, and not like the first temple, not like the second temple, that they're gone. It says, even though really they weren't destroyed, it says that God just took them away. It says Mishkan, God just took them away as a surety. He'll give them all back. That's going to be the third temple. It's going to contain all the other two and the tabernacle as well. And just like by Moshe, there is these two topics, Moses, which is the essence of Moshe, and Ish Elokim. That's how Moses brings God into the world. Kach also, there is these two things in the blessing and the prayer of Moses. Like we said in the end of the prayer. Yehi Noam Hashem Elokeinu here. Let's go back. Yehi Noam, may the pleasantness of God be on us, and the work of our hands should be permanent, and the work of our hands should be permanent. Why does it repeat it here? Well, now we're going to get to it. Why? This. Yeah, this we can also negate. There we go. Why? Because this is the pleasantness of Moshe was drawn into two different ways. First of all, drawing godliness into the tabernacle. That's godliness which is above the world. The tabernacle had the Holy of Holies in it. And also drawing godliness in a way that could be put into the physical world. The Yesh Lo Mosheim Rumazim, this is also in the double language. our handiwork should be permanent for us in a way of a surrounding level from above, like in the Holy Temple, because this is unlimited. And also our handiwork should be permanent. This strengthens everything we do. In other words, Zotamet Konanu, Chodr B'Penimius, also Ma'aseh, and not just in a way of Konan Aleinu. Not just that, even what we do, every physical thing that we do, when it's connected to Moshe, then everything in the physical world becomes holy, becomes permanent. Everything. So it says not just in where the Konan Aleh, that God makes it permanent, but also Konanu, that it itself should be permanent. It should be in the world itself should be permanent. How is this the world should be permanent? Like we've said so many times, which that's the big how do you say, theme that recurs in all the Maimorim of Hasidut, that this world is more godly, potentially, than all of the upper worlds. And the upper worlds, you just get a ray of godliness. This world is made by God, and God wants it to be permanent. Permanent. Everything that we do is permanent. That's the idea of the commandments. That the physical world becomes permanent. Suddenly every stone, every bug, everything that's created in the world will reveal that it's being created by God. And it has an eternal purpose to it. And especially what the Jewish people do, if they do it according to the Torah, then it reveals this holiness in a totally different way. It's like the difference between the Eiffel Tower and the Holy Temple. Right? Eiffel Tower is very interesting. The Holy Temple is holy. When a Jew does an act in the world that's according to God, then, and here he's saying it's according to Moses, then everything becomes permanent. It becomes holy. This is going to be, why is it doubled over? This is doubled over. I'm sorry. And this is, we can sweeten this up even more by saying that the fact that it's doubled in the end, right? Doubled in the end. What does it say? May our handiwork be made permanent, and may our handiwork be permanent. Why is it doubled over? So the Rebbe says, maybe we can say this is hinting at the future redemption. What says Kaflayin Litoshia. It's doubled power, doubled blessing. Not just twice, Ella Yeteramizo be'echot ubetokef. It just doesn't become the same thing doubled. It becomes, the first is powerful, the second is double power. It becomes twice in not just quantity, that there's not, instead of being one, there's two, but the number two is incomparably greater than the first one, more powerful. Kefil, this shows, this is the whole idea of the future redemption. The future redemption is going to be eternal. So we have reality as it is now, and then reality, how it will be in the future redemption, it'll be doubled and redoubled reality. This world will be even more powerful and real than going to heaven. In more detail, that's the idea of Rashi, why this is doubled over. It says two times, Maisi Adain and Konaneo. Why does it say twice, may our handiwork be permanent? Says the Rebbe, right here, let's go again. Why does it say? Our handiwork should be permanent on us, and our handiwork should be permanent. Why does it say twice? So Rashi explains that the first time is talking about the tabernacle. that Shabirchan, that the Jewish people, it was blessed. The Mishkan was blessed for the Jewish people. The Hitpalel, that Moses prayed that the Shekhinah should be on the handiwork of the Jewish people in the tabernacle. And another one is a blessing for the handiwork of the Jewish people in the day-to-day things that they do. According to this, we can say that the double language we have, that our handiwork should be permanent, our handiwork should be permanent at the end of the Psalm, this is hinting at a double blessing of Moses, that he said, may our handiwork be doubled, that it should be permanent, eternal. This is our handiwork in matters of holiness, that's like the Mishkan, or whether in matters of weekday things, the regular weekday things that we do, the car that we drive, the house that we live in, every physical thing, shagam she'elu masim, even though that these are things which are attached to the world, the job that you work at, the people that you know, but Moses gave the ability to put eternal meaning and life into them. All those, and you can, we can see this in the world. We can see it clearly in the world. There's some things that happen in a person's life that are eternal in his mind. They never go away because they're so real. They're so real. A person remembers his children. Children remember their parents, right? They know that they're not dead, even after they passed away. There's something there that's eternal that it can't be that that's why it says the soul is eternal. What does it mean, the soul? You knew your parents, you know your children, you know a good friend. You didn't know their soul. You know the person in a body, the soul in a body, right? What does it mean? Because what the person's body did became a permanent thing, right? Acts of bravery, acts of love, acts of honesty, right? Those things are like eternal. They never go away. But it's beyond the person's personality in a way. It's beyond the person. The person, in order to show love, you have to forget yourself. In order to show courage, you have to forget yourself. What do you mean? You forget your temporal self and you do something that's eternal. To be honest, to be truthful. Sometimes you have to, right? The whistleblowers, they say, right? They have to risk their lives in order to say the truth. But suddenly they don't care. They just care about the truth. Those things are eternal, but physically eternal. They become physically eternal. How much more so if you do things according to the Torah? This is like direct God's directive. That's the 7 no-eyed commandments for the non-Jews. When a non-Jew does that, then he becomes permanent. It's written in the Torah. The Torah is from Moses. Everything Moses did was permanent. Also, we can add another thing. What says a tefillah l'Moshe, this is one of the prayers that we pray on Shabbat. According to this, now we can understand that this prayer has a special connection in the prayers of Shabbat. This is one of the prayers we pray on Shabbat. On Shabbat, the prayers are a little bit different than on the weekday. There's more psalms added on. One of the psalms we added on is Psalm number 90. And especially that the song of Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat. Mizmor Yom Shabbat, here we say. This is Psalm 92, which is that's also one of the psalms that Moses wrote. It says also the song Shabbat. This is part of the prayers of Moses, right? This is one of the 11 psalms that Moses wrote. Aaron Kill says, "Boom, Moshe came and he put his name in this Yom." It says Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat. That's the first initials of Moshe. Mizmor Mem, Shir, Shin, Hey, Moshe. That's Psalm number 92. Here we learned Psalm number 90. Maybe we can even go, let's see, can we do this? Can we do it here? We do the next one? No. Sometimes it gives you ability to go to the next page. Okay. Anyway, 90. This is 90. It says from 90 until 100. I guess all those prayers were prayers of Moses that Moses wrote. From 90 to 100. 11 prayers Moses wrote. Okay. So we said one of those prayers is Moshe. This is relevant to Shabbat. We can say the connection of it to Shabbat. We can say the connection according to Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat. We say the rabbis that everything in Shabbos is double. 2 loaves of bread, etc. It's explained in many places that the double of Shabbat, there's 2 levels of Shabbat. In every Shabbat, there's what's called the night of Shabbat, Male Shabbata, and the day of Shabbat. Usually the night of Shabbat is the world goes up, and the day of Shabbat is godliness coming down. This is menucha, this is rest. The night of Shabbat, this is rest from what we worked in, stopping working. And then the daytime of Shabbat, this is rest coming from above to below. This is essential resting. Like the difference between the name Elokim, that's like the night of Shabbos, and the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, that's godliness, which is above creation. That's the day of Shabbat. In Shabbat, both of them come together. It's double on Shabbat. And we can say that this is also the double in the beginning of the Psalm. The prayer of Moses, that's from above to below. That's the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And Ish Elokim, that's the name Elokim. That's from below to above. And in the end, we say also doubled. May the pleasantness of God be on us. The pleasantness of God, that's the pleasant of the Shabbat. And then it says the double. And our handiwork should be permanent for us. Our handiwork should be permanent. This is talking about resting, the rest, which is relevant to the work that we did. Or the menucha be'etzem, aleinu. That's the first one, the essential rest. And even more, it says that it should be permanent. Our handiwork, that's the weekday things that we do. They should be permanent on their own. 6 days you should work. And Maaseh Yodeinu Konanu Aleinu, the beginning of the sentence, that's talking about the essence of Shabbat. Just like Moses, it says the essence comes first. And then afterwards comes the lower part of Moses, Ish Elokim. So also this Mizmor of Shabbat, let's go down to the end, right? So this is talking about the rest of Shabbat. May the pleasantness of God be on us. That's Shabbat. Then it says the work of our hands should be made permanent on us. That's the day of Shabbat. That's like Moshe coming from above to below. And Maaseh Yodeinu Konanu, that our handiwork, that's the weekday thing, should also be permanent. That's the beginning of Shabbat. That's like Ish Elokim. Shabbat, that's something like Moses. Shabbat is connected to something which is eternal. Like it's known that every Shabbat, there is something like the day which is going to be in the times of the Moshiach, the raising of the dead. It says the day which is totally Shabbat and total rest forever. That there'll be the revelation of true rest, the essence of God, menucha nitzchit, a permanent rest, something which will never be stopped. That's the redemption, the future redemption. Like it says, immediately should happen now, will come by means of this, by means of the fact that the Jews keep 2 Shabboses. Explained in the Tanya, that means the inside of Shabbat and also the actions of Shabbat. 2 levels which are in every Shabbat, that everything in Shabbat is doubled. So the same thing as the blessing of Moses, everything is doubled. First of all, Moshe, that's pure godliness coming down from above to below. And then there's Ish Elokim coming from below to above. The same thing is our handiwork should be made permanent on us. That's God blessing it. And our handiwork should be permanent. That's the work should be permanent on its own. It should permeate the world. So it's double. That's the whole thing of Moshe, is that Moshe is godliness, but pure godliness, but it's coming to show how precious the physical world is. That's the whole idea. That this world becomes imbued with the truth that God is creating it. So there has to be someone that has the ability to bring the essence of God into the world, sort of like a walking holy temple. Moshe, but the holy temple was a holy place. People went to it. Moses came to the people. Moses came down. So he was a God man, showing us that every Jew is a God man. And eventually, everything in the world is godliness. Now we can understand why the psalm is Psalm number 90 of Psalms. Why? Because there's something special about the number 90, tzaddik, and we're going to talk about that, God willing, tomorrow.